Welcome to the Honest Designers Show, your transparent look into life as a modern designer. My name's Tom Ross, and I'm the founder at designcuts.com. And this week I'm joined by my fellow Brit and hand lettering expert, Ian Barnard, American retro design expert and generally strange man, Dustin Lee, and the incredibly talented South African illustrator, Lisa Glantz. This week, we're talking about getting more efficient in our creative businesses. We're fixing processes, solving inefficiencies, and learning how to work smarter. It may sound incredibly boring, but I promise this stuff can have a real impact on moving your creative business forward. So without further ado, let's get into the show. Oh, we're going to have to keep that intro in. Guys, it's getting harder with these intros. I literally just had the three of them trying to make me laugh, and Lisa's giggling again.
It was actually your fault because you said it may sound boring, and I was thinking, damn, yeah, it does.
It does sound boring. So, guys, are we ready to fix some processes today? Are we going to get super duper efficient?
Okay, this is definitely not my...
All right, shall I try and make it interesting for people?
Please.
Add a little razzle dazzle. So, Dustin's currently making a handlebar moustache out of some weird thing in his office. It's like working with children, people. Okay, so I recently read an article, but I had seen it a while back. And the summary was, I think it was on James Clear's website or someone like that. And it's called the aggregation of compounding gains or something like that, right? So we're still in boring land at this point.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty boring. But what it was about the English cycling team.
Oh, it's a good story. It's a good story. It doesn't get boring.
It is a good story, right? Exactly. We're on the up. We're about to get interesting. So the true story was basically they were useless to the point literally bike companies would not sponsor them because they didn't want to associate with them. They weren't winning any medals. Like they weren't doing well at the Olympics. None of our cyclists could perform in the Tour de France, I think it was. And so they got a new performance coach on board. And he started off by looking at the big stuff. So they looked at the bikes they had and their training regimes and stuff. But he believed in making 1% improvements across the entire, ethos of everything they were doing. And this included really, really tiny stuff. So they got like certain types of massage to help with muscle recovery, and they used different massage gels to accelerate that healing process.
It was pillows,
they experimented with the types of pillows.
It was like, yeah.
It was crazy. It was everything, right? They painted the inside of their vans white so that any dust or dirt would show up so they could keep it super clean, and people got ill less because they sanitized everything in the right way. They got a surgeon to come in and show them how to like properly take care of their hygiene in their hands so they wouldn't get sick. And it was hundreds of these little improvements. And the idea is that it might only be like a 0.5 or a 1% improvement, but when you add all them together, they can really, really add up. And so what happened on the back of this was we won a record number of medals, I believe, at the Olympics. Some of our cyclists went on to win the Tour de France, which was just unheard of in our entire cycling history. And we just had this unprecedented series of victories at a world-class level. And in this article, it talks about how if you improve something 1% each day for a year, you end up 3,700 times better off than you were when you started.
Okay.
Because what happens is right? So what happens is it compounds. So the same way, if you look at like what Warren Buffett has done with the stock market, if you keep adding 1%, as each time you add 1%, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Suddenly that 1% gets bigger as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
compound.
Compound. So it's the same way if you've got stocks and you make 5% every single year on them. In 20 years' time, you're going to be making 5% of a much bigger number. So that 5% is worth way more than it is in year one.
Now, obviously, they're referring to like in general, you
kind of like as a general rule 1%, because it'd be really hard for some of this stuff, like with the cycling team, to say that was 1%. You're kind of just trying to aim for small incremental wins.
Yeah. Not like exactly measurable 1%, but just like incremental gains across the board. And so the reason this is front of my mind is we've started doing that at Design Cuts, and it's really empowering. And so what we do is I say everyone on the team every week, they have to pick some kind of improvement, and it doesn't matter how small, which is generally like an efficiency improvement. And obviously we're a company, so we will inherently be less efficient in many ways than just an individual, because the bigger you get, the more that happens. But whether you are a solo freelancer or whatever it might be, just think, if you improve, it doesn't have to be every day. If you improve one thing, no matter how small, every single week, in a year, that's going to be 52 improvements. And that really adds up, especially when other people aren't really bothering to do that. They're just becoming a bit stale and they're in the same place. And so we started doing it where we would measure it on time. So we'd say, okay, someone just fixed something. That saves an hour of their time every week that they don't have to do anymore. And that adds up to, so many hundreds of pounds saved annually. And it was staggering. So within 1 week of doing this, we saved like 50 grand a year or something.
Wow.
And
That's
so then we
amazing.
do it again and again and again. And it's only when you proactively start doing it, you realize just how messy things might have gotten and how much scope for improvement there is.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'd like to try and do this episode is like, how do we take this concept and make it actionable and understandable and applicable to smaller businesses and solo creatives and freelancers? Because most people aren't going to be running, teams of 20 people or whatnot. So I'd love your guys' ideas, thoughts, questions around this, and then we can maybe just dig into it.
I've read that book that comes from, which is Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Yeah,
really good
that's
book,
the one. Thank
worth
you.
getting.
Yeah.
It's one of those books where I've got the Kindle version. I wish I bought the physical version, because you need to really make highlight bits, because they're just like, oh, this gold. But the things I'm like, for me, I'm like, what? Yeah, I need clarity on what I need to improve. Like, I'm not saying there's lots of areas where I'm not doing well, and it's like, well, how do I improve? I think for me, it's like, oh,
okay. Can I give you a perfect example?
Yes,
that you've done. I think improvement is quite a vague term.
Yes.
So as boring as it might seem, I literally think there is joy to be found in getting more efficient. Because when you feel horribly inefficient, like, time is money, right?
Yes.
And that's something every creative can understand. So, Ian, you talked about in a recent episode how YouTube set you up with a workshop which showed you how to edit like twice as fast or something.
Yeah.
So how much time do you reckon that saves you?
Oh, it saved me a lot, but then the problem is I'm not doing any videos because it takes so long to do the rest of the stuff, not the editing.
Okay.
So,
but all right, let's just say though,
that
something like that. So it could be a Procreate hack. In my case, right, I'm currently producing design work for Instagram. And so simply having a template that I can edit over and over and over again saves me a bunch of time compared to if I design something from scratch. That's like infinitely quicker. So what things do you find the best things to improve are things that you do over and over and over again? Because if it's a one-off, that's kind of hard. But if it's like week in, week out, day in, day out, they're the things you should be addressing, and you'd be amazed at how quickly you can start shaving hours off.
If you commit... Well, sorry, I was just going to quickly say to back end of your comment, Tom, if you can commit to learning one shortcut on your app that you use all the time, Photoshop, Illustrator, Procreate, whatever, even your email, software, whatever, one shortcut a day or a week, whatever you find doable, I mean, that could cut your time seriously in half. I mean, I remember when I first moved over to InDesign, I was overwhelmed. I was completely self-taught, and I just thought, well, I've got to learn the shortcuts as fast as possible. So I committed to learning one a day, and within a month, I was totally comfortable using the app, and I was much faster.
And so you say much faster. I've seen people that do this for a living who are rapid versus someone Like even I've got pretty horrendous workflows because I didn't bother to do all that stuff. So I'm quick because I can design quickly, but in terms of my actual efficiency and shortcuts, not so much. I've seen Chris Spooner do it, and he's got so efficient. Like when he did a tutorial for us, I was like, damn, that's how you work? And it can literally be like 2 to 5 times quicker.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's huge, because if you're 2 to 5 times quicker, it's the equivalent of earning 2 to 5 times as much money, because you can fit in that much more work.
Though the thing is, you have to allocate the fact that you're going to have to take like 1 step backwards and then 2 steps forward once you've learnt it.
Yes, but I'm so glad you mentioned that. This is something we see all the time. We see it with other companies that we work with. Humans generally are resistant to doing that because we're creatures of habit. So we get stuck in our ways and our processes, and we just stay in our lane.
Yes.
But often it will be something like people are resistant to spending 4 hours to save themselves 1 hour a week for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And the maths on that is completely nuts. And I see it over and over and over again. And we've got to the point where we've had to like push people on our team, like, just do it, because we've nagged enough, like, do it. And as soon as they've done it, it's like, oh my God, if we'd done that 2 years ago, we would have saved 200 hours of like heartache.
Well,
What's wrong with us?
There's some that are like ridiculously easy to implement. You just don't think of it because you're so into the dogma of how things are done. Like Noah Kagan, I believe that's his name, Noah Kagan, who owns AppSumo and Sumo. He had left this tip and he said, it was about the mouse thing you're talking about. I was thinking about the shortcuts, and think about how much your mouse moves around. Imagine if that mouse was tracking across, say, like a distance. It would be miles and miles and miles that mouse would move if you put it into a straight line, right?
Yes.
Well, he said, here's a quick way to like save yourself tons of time. He's like, just go to the settings for your mouse and increase how quickly the mouse is allowed to move across the desktop by 100%. So I did that. So now my mouse moves super fast. At first, I couldn't do it. I was like, this is so weird. It was so sensitive. And now like I can do it. And I notice like people see my mouse and be like, dude, what's up with your mouse? Because my mouse would be like,
yeah.
But you know, like it was literally
like
changing
Pong.
a setting. Like it was a self-imposed, or not self-imposed, imposed by the operating system.
Yeah. And even if you did it so marginally, you barely notice it, but you do that once a month for a year.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to overnight go rapid.
Yeah, it's that whole thing of being slightly uncomfortable for a little bit for a freedom, you know, like so much gain forever kind of thing. Yeah.
Here's one that I've done that anyone can do. Instead of falling into the habit of deleting emails in your inbox, unsubscribe. Because I can't tell you how much time I waste just going through delete. I never even open tons of them. And if I just take the extra second to go and unsubscribe, if I truly don't want to hear from them again, then suddenly my inbox is way cleaner and it takes me way less time to go through.
Good idea. As opposed to saying delete like 1,000 times over the next 2 years.
Exactly.
On one
it's
company.
ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
But that's a perfect example of human nature.
Yeah.
We really just fall into the pattern of delete. Do the same old thing.
I suppose the best way is to sort of look at your day and week and then audit what you do. Or maybe keep a journal.
Ian, you're on fire. Exactly that.
Okay, so Tom, I want it step by step, please. I'm doing an Ian. I would like a step.
Well, Ian's kind of doing it. Like, we're having the chat, and Ian keeps dropping these absolute truth bombs where it's like, that's exactly how you do it.
The
So
problem
how would you do that, Ian?
Areas where creativity is something that's harder to improve. Because, come up with a post for Instagram. Well, it's like the
Okay, so I've got an answer.
Yes.
You've got to do better than that. So generally, we're more efficient when we do stuff in batches. And so I know I don't work the most efficiently when I sit down there and I'm like, what am I posting about today? That doesn't really work. But if I dedicate an afternoon or a day to the conceptual phase, where I'm like, right, I'm going to plan out everything I'm going to post this week, and I do it in one sitting, well, then for the rest of the week, I'm covered. I've got those ideas planned out. I've got a little notes thing on my phone where I stockpile them.
Okay, so how do you feel? How do you get yourself motivated? Because I know that principle in theory.
Yeah, I know that principle in theory, and it never works.
And I never, ever, 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 ever do it.
Why?
because I'll sit down and try it, and then it'll be like, oh God, I've got other things to do. I don't want to do this. This is so boring.
But now you're doing the thing of you don't want to spend 4 hours to save
I know.
200 hours.
Okay, so
all right. So you just said motivation, right?
Yes.
The motivation, I think, is do what we're doing internally, where you work out how much your time is worth, and then you work out how much time you will save annually by fixing something.
Okay.
And then you literally put a dollar value on it.
Right.
And
I
you can even have like an Excel spreadsheet or something where it kicks out the end, dollar value for you. But I don't know, let's say your time's worth $100 an hour, just to use a nice round figure.
Nice.
I think it's probably worth a lot more, Lisa, but
What?
sure,
No,
let's go with
really?
let's go with I would
don't
imagine
get $100. Yeah.
so let's say $100 an hour. If you say, okay, every time I have to sit and brainstorm a post, it takes me an extra hour for each piece of content because I haven't done it in advance in batch, right? So if I do it in batch, I sit down and it's much quicker. But if I do this, I kind of go back and forth and it takes a while to get the gears kind of going. And I then do, I don't know, how many posts? 2 a week, 3 a week?
Yeah, let's say like 3 to 4 a week. Yeah.
All right, so let's make it 4. Okay, so that's 4 a week over 52. So that's 208 per year.
Okay.
And we just agreed your hourly rate is $100. So that's $20,800 a year.
Wow. Damn.
And this is obviously a hypothetical example, but if you're like, okay, well, I know it is roughly an hour each time going back and forth, and that's alleviated by me.
Instagram.
Yeah, right. And it's alleviated by me blocking that off. And I know every Sunday or Friday or whenever I sit for 4 hours and I plan my week's content, then that's worth 20 grand. And I think when it's like ephemeral and it floats in the air, then it's like, well, I'll get to that at some point, or I just won't bother. But when it's 20 grand staring you in the face, and then this is the real kicker, that is literally 20 grand waiting to be saved in terms of time. But then when you save that time, which is essentially the most frivolous, worthless time, think what happens when I fill those freed up hours with really impactful work that's going to move stuff forward.
Yeah.
And that's when it gets really interesting, because invariably, whatever time we're going to shave off here, it's not going to be like the fun work. It's not going to be the really big, like move the needle stuff. It's going to be like the dumb stuff and the boring stuff and the painful frustration stuff. That's what we're going to be shaving off.
Can I give an example? I have an example of disciplining myself to stop and do this when I really didn't want to from recently. Yep. So, I'd launched this passive income for designers course, and for the course, I had to make a bunch of video modules and worksheets for each week. And it was just overwhelming while I was also doing retro supply. It was just too much. Plus, I'm trying to spend more time with my kids. It's the summer, right? So I'm trying to think, how can I spend more time with them? So one weekend, my family was out of town, and I was feeling bad because I couldn't go because I was so overwhelmed. And instead of spending that day working, I literally, no joke, spent the entire day walking around my neighborhood and sitting at my table thinking of how I could become more efficient so this wasn't a problem with this work. Like, I didn't do anything all day. I literally read the 80-20 principle. Then I wrote things down. Then I talked about how can I eliminate things? What's necessary? What do I think is necessary? That's a lie. And here's what ended up happening. I realized, what do I need to do when I make these modules? I have to write it. I have to outline what I'm going to make. I have to write a script. I have to record my voice. I have to make the slides. I have to record the video. I have to do the examples from on the web. I have to edit it. Then I have to upload it. Then I have to post it. Then I have to make the worksheets. And I thought, what do I really need to do? And I realized all I really need to do is write the scripts, record my voice. So I wrote the scripts. I started writing the scripts, recording my voice. I found someone that had a teaching background and asked them if they could make the slides, make the videos, record the videos with just my voice in the scripts. It went from taking me like 2 full days of work to literally like 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's crazy,
like,
right?
Overwhelmed to doable.
And not doing it to doing it.
Yeah, like all I do is write the script, record my voice, and worksheets and videos come out the other end.
Mm-hmm. So I'll give you, I love that for the record. And what you're talking about is working on your business instead of in your business, which is always a good idea. Like jumping off of the ever spinning hamster wheel to actually, take a look at it and be like, doesn't have to be that way. It could be kind of different. So you guys have seen the content I'm putting out on my Instagram. That is maybe not the most efficient, because what I'm going to do after this is jump off this call and be like, holy crap, I haven't done today's post. And exactly like we talked about, Lisa, I need to be like, I've kind of got a vague idea of a topic, but I need to write it. I need to turn it into like slide images, put it all out, publish it, do a post description. That's going to be like quite draining to do after this. So, and this keeps happening. And so I thought, great, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hire someone, and realize hiring, you can save plenty of time not hiring, but I'm just choosing to do this. I'm going to hire someone and suggest that we just jump on a call. I basically talk and record the conversation with them, and I talk to them and say, here's my broad ideas with content. I'll talk back and forth and give you as much value as I can, like I'm coaching. And then you go away and basically turn that into all the final imagery and make it look all nice and present it properly. And then I just post that. Or better yet, like I'll get buffer account set up and give you access, and you can post it through that, and I don't need to do anything. And it's the same way right now with my personal podcast. I sit down on a sofa for an hour and questions play out of a speaker, and I give my honest answer, and then that gets cut up and turned into a daily video and audio podcast 7 days a week. But it's 1 hour time out of my week.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And that kind of stuff could take days and days and days.
Absolutely.
But it's become efficient. I promise it's a game changer. Like I used to literally want to go to sleep when I heard the word process. I was like, this is the lamest thing. I don't care about that stuff. But when you actually feel the impact, it could be making more money. It could be less stressed out. It could be spending more time with your family. Like these are really, really like powerful impacts. And so I think do what I said to Lisa, where it's like map out the dollar value, because that's going to be incentive. And then also just make it part of your weekly to-do list, where it's like every week, I know I have to implement at least one improvement. And that's it.
What do you do about creative block when you're sitting there, you've penciled a morning to do, your weeks, whatever, and you just, there's no ideas coming?
That's obviously a tougher one, because we're not machines. I would try and look for patterns. So I'd be like, on the days when I get creative block, are there any patterns that emerge? Is it when I'm trying to cram it in between other tasks? Is it when I do it at a certain time of day? When I hit that flow state, is that, relevant to a pattern? So is that after I've like actually gone out and enjoyed a bit of sun and nature and I'm not stressed out of my mind? If so, how can I replicate those ideal conditions?
Good point. So it's about actually being sorry, I just quickly want to clarify. So it's about finding a tangible way. Oh gosh, I don't know how to say this. Like finding
no, go on.
It's like like you need to find a tangible goal or a tangible outcome to motivate you. Well, for me. So you just said the money
I think
thing.
For any of us. Right?
Yeah. I think that what my problem is, because things are so in the air and they're so conceptual, and there isn't like an actual specific kind of, as you said, plan or goal, or what is it that I want to actually improve on. That's what makes it all so overwhelming. I don't even know where to start. So then I end up just don't start,
Well, I think some things need to be improved and some don't. So if it's learning, and learning takes playing and messing around and having time that's just dead time, then that's what you're trying to free up so you have time to do that.
Yes.
Exactly.
That is my goal.
Yeah. Well, smart. Okay. So if that's your goal, start with an audit, like Ian said. And I think everyone can do this. Just spend even 3 days, and just every time you do something, just write it in a little notepad. No matter how small, and yes, it will slightly disrupt your day and ironically make it temporarily less efficient. But, you're like, okay, so now for an hour I'm drawing on Procreate, and then I'm going to do this. And every little thing, because you'd be amazed with some of the tiny granular things. Like I say, where it's like, well, actually, you're being really inefficient in the way you use Procreate. So it's worth kind of documenting that too. But actually, when you go through that and it's on paper in black and white in front of you, and then you look at it and you go, do I really need to be doing that, and that? Or could I do that smarter? Could I drop that altogether? Maybe I should be doing more of that. That's going to free up 4 hours, and now I can just learn and have fun and do the stuff I want. And, if I put a dollar value on that time saved, that's huge. And if I put a dollar value on how much I'm going to make from all the stuff that I now spend time learning, instead of deleting emails or doing stupid processes, I'm actually going to teach myself new skills, which are going to really benefit my career.
I think equally as important a question to ask yourself is, does this actually need to be done? Or have I just done it for so long that I think it needs to be done? There's so many things we do that no one even notices or cares, or it has little value to them. And we just do it, and we don't need to. And actually nothing needs to be improved, no point in making something more efficient that no one gives a crap about. Or no one notices.
Exactly.
It's just silly.
Yeah, we had it recently with someone's creative job with us, where we looked at it and it had that exact conversation. Went, is there any real benefit, or are we just doing that because we've always done it? And so in a 10-second decision, we eliminated half of their role, and then went, okay, so now you get to do all this stuff, which is going to be more fun, more different, more interesting for you. And she was really happy. And it's like, great, and we haven't lost anything. But what that's called, and I mentioned this before on the show, is Frankensteining, because you keep bolting bits onto what you're doing, and very rarely do you actually take away. And we can all preach that that's bad design. Good design is keep it simple, stupid. Good design is what you take away, not what you add. We all know those principles when it comes to visuals, but when it comes to how we work, we generally we don't even notice we're doing it. We start adding one thing and then another thing, another thing. And when you do that over 5 years or something, you don't even realize you've created a monster by adding all these stuff. So actually it's time for a spring clean. And it's like, what can I actually take away?
Yeah, I have to bring that. This is just a random app, but it's just it could apply to so many things, but it's been so useful to me. Have you guys heard of the world's most dangerous writing app?
No.
Writing app? No. It's a good name though.
Yeah, so if you Google it, it's called the world's most dangerous writing app. And I use it a lot, when I'm writing the scripts for the course I'm doing, or when I'm doing product descriptions. So what it is you go to it, you give it a time period, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. And then as soon as you start writing, if you stop for more than a few seconds, it will delete everything you did. It doesn't matter if you're 7 minutes in and you stop. It doesn't matter if you're almost 20 seconds till you're done. So what it does is it forces you to continue writing. So I'll find that I can get a whole script done. I just keep writing. I never stop. And then I copy and paste that out. And then I go through and edit, edit. But I get so much more done because the other option is it will delete it. It's brutal, man. But think of how you can apply that to so many different things.
That's kind of genius.
It is kind of genius.
And you're someone who openly suffers with anxiety. That sounds like a recipe for disaster. I'd feel like I had a gun to my head, man.
Not with that kind of thing, though. I find it really helpful because then I'll have a big block of text in front of me that I have completed, which lowers my anxiety.
Yeah, I like that. That might actually work for me too.
I love the thought of people conceiving of these things.
Imagine if they had that for designers, the world's most dangerous designing app. And once you started designing, if you stop moving, it would stop. Especially when you're coming up with just multiple concepts, or sketching out concepts.
Dustin, we already got it with Adobe products.
Zing!
I like that.
Toss of the dice every time you play. Every time you open up. Yeah.
Disclaimer, this show will never be sponsored by Adobe.
No.
Hey, they should, right? They should just, instead of a bug, they should make it a feature. And one of the features of Illustrator, you never know when it's going to crash. Putting more urgency into your work.
Yeah.
I like that.
So have we got any other thoughts on this before we wrap up even? I feel like this is kind of a short and sweet episode. I guess my thing would be, this has been something that I've been living and breathing a little bit more. Perhaps you guys, especially Lisa and Ian, haven't. So if you are the mouthpiece to our listeners, is it clear enough? Does it make sense? Do you feel like you're actually going to do it? If not, why not? What's missing?
I think for me, I want to do it. It's the fact that at the moment I'm stuck with some of my products. It's how do you set yourself time, but I can't. I'm having trouble with like getting the mechanics to work, or I'm trying to post something and I'm having creative block. So it's this sort of like, I love when I know what I need to do, I can sit down and just block out a bit of time and do it. When I don't know where I'm going or I'm at a roadblock, that's my problem.
But I think that's, like Dustin said, that's a natural part of the creative, explorative phase. And that's probably necessary and okay. So it's by eliminating time on all the crap that surrounds that, all the little things and little inefficiencies, how many hours can you free up to actually take the pressure off and give yourself more time to explore and create
That's the
amazing
problem. That's
things?
all I do. It's like one of those two things.
Well, something like the product, though, you're saying, well, you know the outcome. Like, I think you know what you want the product to do. You're just trying to get over the technical boundaries of the product, of the software to get to the result. So, I mean, you could hire that out, like to somebody. Like, I always thought I had to make every Illustrator brush. Then I realized, no, like thousands and thousands of people make Illustrator brushes, and they even make clever ones that are hard to make. Like, it's not some genius special thing that me or you do. So someone could figure that out for you if you know what you're trying to do.
It's like, I suppose it's how do you find that, and how, because like I tried looking for someone to convert some Procreate brushes to Photoshop, and it took me forever to find someone.
Glad you finally found me, though.
I mean, Dustin, you just go on like Instagram and stuff, right?
To find people to do that?
Yeah.
What's your process?
Well, like for me, like I have Suzanne, who's an employee now, and I literally at one point for Illustrator brushes, I just told her, here's some good guides on this. You know how to do Google searches, disappear and then don't pop up again until you learn how to do this. And she just disappeared, and then she popped up and knew how to do it. But I paid her. I just said, I'll pay you as long as it takes. I don't care if it takes a week or 3 weeks or 2 months. Figure it out and buy other people's stuff to see how they do it.
I want to work for you, Dustin. I'll get paid to play around.
Okay, I'm holding you to that.
I just need
Stop
to get
your
a bunch
business
of,
and start working.
I need to get a bunch of money, and then just go and just.
That sounded so dramatic.
It did.
It did. It was like reverberated.
That's how much money Ian has, people.
It's not money. I just pack cards. It's all I can afford.
My biggest problem or hurdle, because I know all the stuff, it's not new to me. It's like what we said in the previous episode. It's not new to me. I know it. I just don't apply it. And the biggest reason, I think, which could be an excuse, is that when I get caught up in a project or something creatively, I don't want to do anything else other than that. So, like if I'm doing something, like say I'm into my Procreate product that I'm working on, I will ignore everything. Like I don't want to do my newsletter. I don't want to do marketing. I don't want to do anything. I just want to get the product done.
Yep.
So you don't have a problem. Just do the product and love it, and then get people to do the other stuff.
Yeah.
But then who's going to do my newsletters, and who's going to do my
Lisa?
Who's going to do my Instagram posts, and who's going to do all the other stuff?
I feel like other people could do it.
Really?
Lisa, did you say you post 4 times a week on Instagram?
Yeah, I try to.
Okay. How long does each post take?
It depends. If it's quick and nasty, then half an hour. If it's not, then it's
How long?
an hour and a half, maybe.
Hour and a half?
Like today's wasn't quick and nasty, but it actually only took me half an hour.
Cool. Okay, so maybe an hour on average.
Yeah.
So if you did 3 posts a week instead of 4, then you'd save over $5,000 in time annually.
So are you giving me permission to only do 3? Because I have
saying
this,
it like if you did 3, would anything bad happen, or would you? Yeah, but coming from who? If you did 3, is anything really going to drastically change, or could you reallocate that hour?
What if the fourth one was recycled from the bottom of your Instagram feed and put up again? I know Dina Rodriguez does that.
Yeah, exactly. And you just make it one of your top performing ones, so you know it's going to resonate with people. But you breathe life into that archive. That's a great idea.
Can't I employ you people? You just full of ideas.
Yeah, so there you go, right? So you got your 4 posts still. If anything, you're not guessing with that 4th one how well it's going to do. You're getting like an absolute, big hitter from back in the day. So it's probably going to over-index. So nothing has changed there. If anything, it's improved, but you've just saved yourself an hour. Then you can either use that hour for more product concepts and product development, or you block that hour off no matter what and use that to conceive of more efficiencies across your business. And voila, you just found that time. Because you were finding it for Instagram posts, so you definitely can find it for improving your business.
Yes.
I feel I've done the reverse. I was like, okay, I need to be more efficient at Instagram posting. I'll make a tutorial alongside the video I've just made.
Okay, so you need to know when to stop.
But
That's your problem.
But he's making better content and getting more eyeballs on it.
You see, that's the thing.
That's not
man.
inefficient, is it?
I enjoy it, and I love seeing people create stuff from what I teach them to do. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But you see, then that's a double whammy because you're promoting your work, you helping people, and you're getting a kick out of it. So it's like you're ticking a lot of boxes there. I wouldn't change that.
That's not the stuff we're talking about today, where it's like just stop doing it. It's more the dumb stuff.
Okay.
Cool. Well, I hope that helps. I felt like we used to do this where it would be like each week we'd basically just consult each other.
Yes.
And normally one of us or two of us would be like, need help with this, and then the other one or two that had more experience would do it. This is like old school mastermind, honest designers before we started recording it and sharing it with you fine people at home. But I kind of miss it. It's always nice.
It does show the difference between so you, Tom, and Dustin are more on the running a business side, whereas me and Lisa are more on the artistic side. We're all artistic. Tom showed that with some of his skills in the coffee shop we were in Birmingham.
Oh, mate, you really held on to that, and I felt honoured because I'm really distinctly
we're
average.
All four of us are artistic, but like me and Lisa seem to be more focused on making art, and Dustin and Tom more focused on the business side. And I think that that's great because that's how you make the money. And I think me and Lisa need to get more into that headspace without losing the artistic drive that we have.
Yeah, although you're the annoying people that actually just get to sit and make art all day, yet also do very well for yourselves and become fantastically successful. Yeah. So Dustin and I are doing all this like lame business stuff and stressing ourselves to death, and you're just like, oh, I'm going to draw a bubble today. And Lisa's like, I'm going to draw a bunny. And you're actually doing really well for yourselves. So if anything, teach us. You're living the dream. Yeah, you're living the dream. And Dustin and I are over here having a shared anxiety attack. So brilliant.
Yeah. Amen.
Okay, so we're not so bad then, Ian.
So basically undermine this entire episode. Do not try and be more efficient because we're not robots. Just be your free creative selves, people, and just enjoy that. And don't end up like Dustin and myself.
I can just imagine being in our retirement village you were talking about.
Have you noticed that Ian and Lisa, like if you look at their background they're working in, then you look at ours, like the creative people have these like warm, colorful backgrounds, and then like the business people have gray backgrounds.
I've got like white lights over me. I look like a really corporate version of the Gestapo happening here or something. It's
like
it's
paintings
not good, mate,
or
is
pens, in the back.
Yeah, a magical dream world, Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium. And yeah, Dustin and I, it's just dry and soulless.
Yeah.
It's like right. Next week I'll have like a suit. I'll have a suit and they'll just be like, sort of
ruthlessly efficient.
Dell computers all around.
Put up a green screen so like there's all like office cubicles behind you and people popping up from them and working.
Yes.
Oh man.
Oh yeah. That was good.
I feel you, Dustin. I feel you so hard on this stuff. What have we done?
We made a we made a big mistake somewhere.
Yeah. Let's go back to bunny drawing school.
Yeah.
Let's take this Glands lady for all she's worth.
And actually, I just came an idea, after the last episode we were talking about talking to our
younger
selves, that I'd give myself a good slap and I'll say, just learn marketing. Just learn marketing.
Yes.
But you could learn that today and you don't want to. Because you're like,
I
nah.
do. It's just, I'd rather,
do you really?
I'd rather
'Cause I
draw a
know
bubble.
Me too.
Can I conceive of what I think would be possibly the worst job on the face of the planet?
Sure.
And it wouldn't be cleaning out like diseased toilets.
It'd be working for me.
It wouldn't be like, dealing with pest problems or anything like that. It would be working with Ian, but specifically in the form of a project manager. Imagine your job being managing that, where it's like, Ian, please, for the 10th time, if we just do things this way, and you're like, no, I want to draw a bubble. I'm in a bubblicious mood.
That would be the whole thing of Sisyphus. He'd be like pushing the boulder up the hill only to watch it roll back down so you could push it back up again.
I've got to the, like, with, and Ian, this is from a place of love, but whenever there's been a project, I've learned the best way to manage you is he'll do it in his own time. And some amazing genius result is going to come out of it, but pushing him to do it will not work.
Yeah. Could be 1 year, could be 1 month, could be 1 week.
Who knows?
Maybe I need like a physical version of Dustin's app.
What, just a guy chasing you with some kind of weapon where if you don't, if you stop working, you die.
Maybe there's like a sledgehammer that's like connected to my work and it just goes dump.
There was a marketing guy, I want to say it was Ramit Sethi, but it might have been someone else, and they hired someone probably as much so they could write the copy about it, but as much as it actually worked. But they hired someone to stand by them while they worked, so they said, and anytime they went to social media, anything, they had them slap them in the face.
What?
To keep them more productive, like, I want you to just stand here, and if I go to social media or don't do what I need to do,
I
slap
actually
me in the
think
face.
I would need that. Yeah.
Did the hairs on the back of your neck go up, Dustin, being the sadist in the group?
Yes.
You're like, ooh, paid for slapping people.
Because these apps that like ting and ping, like, when you're supposed to stop a segment of work, all this stuff, I've tried it all. It doesn't work. I need somebody physically beating you up.
Well, maybe one day we'll surprise you and we'll hire somebody for you for the day.
Yeah, I think that's a dinner time conversation to be had with Cliff anyway.
That is funny.
Well, that was a random and longer than usual outro. But once again, listeners, that's process is an efficiency. And somehow we ended conceiving of Lisa asking her husband to beat some productivity into it. So you never know what you're going to get on this show.
You get efficient in the episode, then in the end you just fill it up with randomness. That's what happens when you get more efficient.
It's all right. Next episode will be 1% better.
That's right.
God, couldn't be 1% worse, could it?
Dude, you're having some great endings lately, Tom.
Boom. I'm going for that podcast mic drop. That's all from us, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. As always, you can find full show notes over at honestdesigners.com or find us over on iTunes and now Spotify by searching for The Honest Designers Show. And remember, we're now on social media too, if you search for Honest Designers. If today's episode helped you, then it would mean the world to us if you took just a moment to leave us a quick review over on iTunes, as this is one of the best ways for other designers to discover the show. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you next week right here on The Honest Designers Show.